So how do you deal with your relationship with your father? Okay. Hi, my name is Solera. I'm a spiritual channel, and I also am the author of the Life Manual Trilogy, which is a set of texts given to me by the spiritual guides to uplift the consciousness of humanity. So today I have a question, I guess, about father issues, which I totally relate to. All right, so let's see what we can do here. Yes, we hear you. So we understand what you're saying to us. Very often people have parent issues. So today we'll be happy to specifically address father issues that people have, and that sometimes is maybe it's like a father-daughter issue, but actually sometimes could also be a father and son issue. So perhaps today we can address the father and daughter issue a little bit more in detail. So this particular issue is sort of this dynamic. Your psychologists have sort of said, oh, daughters need to have this perfect relationship with their father in order to have a perfect relationship in their own life, which is not true. But of course, it affects you. But we would say it would be the same if you had a negative relationship with like the other parent. Okay, so your parents do affect you. If you are a parent yourself, just know that you obviously do affect your children. But we don't want to put it in a depressing or negative light when it comes to this, because the reality is this is what you're born with, and actually your soul has chosen this particular path for a reason. So how do you navigate a difficult relationship, right? This is what you are really asking us, navigating a relationship that's difficult. Number one, you probably can't change your parent. So if you cannot change your parent, then what can you change, right? You can get rid of like a spouse. Like you can easily get rid of like a girlfriend, a boyfriend. You can get rid of a friend. You can get rid of a boss. You can get rid of a coworker, an employee, anybody that you don't like. Cannot get rid of your parent. At least that's much more difficult to do. So some people, they would run away, like the channel has done for a long time. She would just run away from her problems. We say that would probably not be helpful. You ideally will look at this relationship issue head on. And by head on, we mean deal with it. And by dealing with it, we meaning don't force the other person to change, but look at how you can react differently. Okay? This is probably the most difficult, one of the most difficult topics, because people are so sensitive to it, and there's a kind of knee-jerk reaction. Like as soon as the topic comes up, they flinch. Either they want to fight or they want to flight, right? They want to run away. So we say the issue is not so much about your father as it's an issue about how you react to the relationship. We want to clarify a little bit more when it comes to this topic. It's not that you need to go to counseling with your dad, and that might not help, because you would just focus on kind of all those negative childhood experiences and all these things he did that wasn't good enough, and all these things that he did that might have been abusive. We say that would not help you. Okay, that just will not help you, because what's been done is done, so you can't really fix it. Then the question is, well, how do you heal the past in order for you to move on to a brighter future, right? Like a different perspective in life. We say this is absolutely what you need to focus on. This is the thing that we want to help you, move past and move beyond. When you are in front of your father and you're triggered by the things he says, by things he does, number one, you need to recognize it actually has nothing to do with you. Okay, you might already sort of know that, but then every time you go see your dad, you still take things personally. We say, don't take it personally. But you say, well, that's so hard to do. I'm going to take it personally because it's directed towards me. And we say, yes, we understand what you're saying to us, okay? But let's say the anger that he lashes out at you, it's not really at you. He probably does it to everybody. And we can tell you he does it to himself. So when someone is lashing out at you, they are lashing out at themselves. When someone is rejecting you, they are rejecting themselves. And the reason why we say that is because you actually cannot do to somebody, like you cannot do something to somebody without also doing it to yourself. Let us put it in actually a more positive way. For example, when you're being generous with somebody, like you have a best friend and you know she really likes this kind of cupcake, and you go out of your way to go to this part of town to get her a dozen cupcakes for her birthday. You feel very generous. Yeah, you feel very, very good with that act of kindness, that loving, and you know she's gonna love it, and you know she's gonna appreciate it, and you know she's gonna be so happy when she sees the cupcakes. Yes. And you feel so generous, right? So she's receiving that energy of generosity, but at the same time, you're giving that sense of generosity to yourself. So that act is reciprocal. So you're giving something to her, but you're doing it to yourself. Like you feel so good, right? The moment she receives this big surprise of these cupcakes, and you feel amazing. You see how this works? It's like when you give somebody a hug, you're kind of giving yourself a hug too. So, well, the same thing goes for negative things. If your father rejects you, or you know he doesn't like you, or he abandons you, he's saying negative things to you, he's doing that to himself. So there's this part of him he's rejecting. There's this part of him he's abandoning. There's this part of him that he's ignoring and neglecting and abusing. So we say, we promise you, just like the feeling that you get when you're nice to somebody, right? You're like, oh, that feels so good. In this relationship with your father, if you're having an issue, know that whatever mean things that you feel from him, he's doing it to himself. And he feels it as well. Don't think that bad guys don't feel things. They do feel things, unless they're psychologically damaged. But that's sort of like another topic, right? So we say, well, if you recognize that he's also doing it to himself, then you know it's not really about you, is it? If it's not really about you, then you don't have to take it personally. Then you can start, we say, recognize that it's not really your fault. Okay, so that's number one. Then let's say you get to a point where you kind of like, okay, well, I'm sort of neutral now with my parents. Don't really care about what they say and blah, blah, blah. Well, how do I then improve my relationship, right? This is the question that a lot of people want to ask us. How do I improve my relationship? How do I get my father to do something that's different? You know, how do I get him to behave in a certain way? How do I get him to say I love you, buy me presents, and be nice to me and give me a hug, right? All these things that the inner child is looking for. Well, we say sometimes it may not work the way you want it to. It's possible that your father might not even be present, might not even be alive. Maybe he's in prison somewhere. It's like, well, then how do you work on your relationship in that situation, right? And if you're lucky, your father is sort of like your next door neighbor, then yeah, you can actually go talk to him, right? So let's say that you have access to your father, and every time you see him, you just get annoyed, you're triggered by what he says, you don't really like him, you don't like his behavior. We see the only way you're going to be able to let go is just to see the behavior for what it is, and don't insist that it's going to change. We're going to say this again. You just need to accept the behavior for what it is, and don't expect him to change, and don't insist him to change. But you say, well, what if he does something really bad? Yeah, maybe he is going to do something really bad. But you're not the police, and even if you are the police, right? You cannot force someone to change their behavior unless they are ready to change, and unless they're ready and willing to look at it differently. And so we say, it's not exactly your job to go police somebody's behavior. In fact, we say stop it, because this is why you're making yourself miserable, because you want to control this and you want to control that, you want to fix this and you want to fix that, and to no avail. And so you continue to suffer. So we say, if that is the case, then don't do it. You're only going to put yourself into more misery, because you realize no matter what you do, he doesn't change. Okay? So we would actually treat it like, okay, let's pretend that your father is not alive. And how would you react within yourself, right? Let's say you bring up a memory and you think, oh God, I hated him for that. We say, well, yeah, sometimes you might really hate him for that, but recognize that at the moment he doesn't really know what he's doing. Okay, he really does not know what they're doing. It's like, when Jesus is on the cross and he says, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. That's really what he means. Okay, literally, they don't really know what they're doing. It's not conscious. It's not really a conscious intent to even hurt you. Okay, so over time we say, this part of you, this inner child part of you, just have to say to her, I love you, I'm here for you, I know you've been hurt, but everything is going to be okay, because I'm here for you now. I'm here for you, and no one's going to leave you, no one is going to abandon you, and no one is going to hurt you. And if you can be gentle with yourself in this way, and become the parent for yourself, really become the parent for yourself, and be there for yourself, and love yourself, and nurture yourself. Say, everything's going to be okay, I'm going to be okay. You will find that the resentment that you hold on to, the expectation that they have to change, will start to sort of fade away. Sort of like a scar. At first when you're hurt, you have this like red mark, right? And it looks really ugly. But over time, you just let time heal the scar. Of course, the physical body always knows what to do. It will just heal on its own. But emotionally, you have to allow that healing process to take place, right? Just by being loving and gentle to yourself, instead of thinking of a memory and then kind of re-traumatizing yourself. We say, don't go there. Think of a memory and you're like, oh, I hate this. But then you switch into, it's okay, I love you, I'm here for you, and I'm not going to abandon you. You say that to yourself first. Okay? So this is rather a long answer to your question, but we say, if you can really focus on this aspect of loving yourself and understanding it's not really your fault, then over time you will start to heal this part of you, like this child part of you, and you will come into peace within yourself. And when you come into peace within yourself, then things on the outside would also start to change. You would attract better partners, and you would attract better relationship with other people, friends, everything. Okay, so with that, we'll close the reading for today. Okay, guys. Or ladies. Oh yeah, that's a big topic. I feel tired just channeling all of this. Yeah, it's a huge one for me also. So I'm totally hearing you if you're struggling on this topic, because it's something that I work on all the time. And it really does take time, and I find I'm getting a little bit closer to my dad, just because I'm starting to become more open, and it's still perfect, but it's sort of a work in progress, right? So, well, I'm here for you, and I definitely wish you the best of luck. Alrighty. So if you like these videos, make sure you join us. Subscribe to Solera for Humanity, and you can also find us on Facebook in our group, Life Lessons for Every Day from the Guides. I will see you next time.